Hello, I'm Jenny Luscombe, and I'm a facilitator of healing and a passionate teacher of self-healing. I'm just about to do my show on Holistic Radio, which happens every Monday, 5 till 6 p.m. UK time. It would really help me to help as many people as possible. If you like what you've heard today, or if you think somebody else would benefit from what I'm sharing today, if you could share, subscribe, and like the video, it'll help me reach more people. Thank you. So, the show today is all about the shadow of expectation. So, this is all about why it is that we get stuck in these patterns of disappointment over and over again. Thank you. Hello, this is Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing. And I think it's number 37 that we're up to. And today I'm going to be talking about the shadow of expectation and how that relates to disappointment. So Andy's going to call the show Expectation and Disappointment because they're kind of holding hands. So I could have called this Attachment to Outcomes, and I could have also called this something to do with expectation and its relationship to death. But that's kind of a bit morbid, but weirdly it is associated with death, but I'll kind of get into that a bit later. So I receive information in lots of different ways from the universe, and mainly I don't really know how it comes. It's often just there in my head. So I have knowings and feelings, and they just turn out to be right a lot of the time, although not always. But sometimes I do get very clear messages from the universe that are just a word or a phrase. So, for example, going back quite a few years to 2012, when I first woke up spiritually, I asked the universe what my purpose was. And it came to me in a dream just as I was sort of waking up, you know, that half asleep, half awake state of consciousness. And I just saw the words emotional freedom, just words, just letters in front of me, kind of written in the sky, I think it was. And then shortly after that, a therapist that I was seeing told me about EFT tapping, which I'd never heard of before, which I discovered stands for emotional freedom techniques. So that was kind of quite mind blowing. So as I've, found that I have quite a deep shadow of confusion that sort of comes from my childhood, I ask the universe for clarity. So I quite often receive words. And I like that. I like the clarity of that. It makes me happy. So I quite often just get one word, which then helps me with things like healing myself or clients, or helps me with the theme of this show. So about a week ago, I was having an interesting relationship issue with a friend of mine. And I also realized that it was manifesting in my relationship with my daughter as well, but kind of in a different way. And what I normally do is make the mistake of trying to figure it out intellectually. So if you think about intellect, is very closely connected to logic, and that's really the polar opposite force to magic or intuition. So intellectualizing something, has its value, but if you really want to get, the answer, the answer, you need to use your intuition, which is the opposite force to intellect. So after I'd finished wrestling with myself and beating myself up, trying to figure it out, which, obviously that didn't work. I realized, okay, I'm in a tangle with this friend, and I knew something was trying to come through. I knew I was trying to get to some sort of information, why was this happening? I wanted to get to the bottom of it. So I knew they were unwittingly kind of showing me something. So I turned it over to the universe. And then the next morning, just as I was waking up in that half asleep, half awake state of consciousness, I received the word expectation. So that was really interesting. And I thought, of course, it just made sense. As soon as I got that word expectation, I thought Of course it is. That person had expectations that what wasn't working for me, and so did my daughter. And then miraculously, later that day, I received a notification, like an email from the Gene Keys. They call it the Pulse newsletter, and they always send out the Gene Key of the week, which is kind of like a collective energy. It's like a collective, it's a theme that's going on in the collective consciousness. So this actually from April the 10th to April the 16th, Gene Key of the week, expectation. So you couldn't make it up really. So I received expectation in my head when I was waking up, and then I received it in an email just to confirm it. So that's what I thought I'd do the show about today. And, obviously I was experiencing it in my life, and in with the Gene Keys community, I know that that's always true. What's going on collectively, I always feel that. I always get confirmation of that. So I'm just going to read out something here that Richard Rudd wrote down about Gene Key 42, which kind of made me laugh as well, because it made me think of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The meaning of life is apparently 42. So I wonder if he was kind of channeling that. And there is, when you look at it, there is quite a remarkable connection to that concept in itself. So what Richard Rudd said regarding this shadow of expectation: this week, we will tussle with Gene Key 42, which may challenge you to let go of your disappointment over something or someone. But if you open your mind and heart, you may find the opposite, that letting go of the thing which upsets you can lead you to a new beginning. When we go into this, we'll discover what blissfulness feels like. We'll touch the ecstatic realms where the mind lets go, where thinking comes to an end, and when thoughts do come, they're the thoughts of God, so they only engender more bliss, and we'll become like a child again, and life becomes heaven on earth. So I thought, okay, yes, please. Yes, I quite like some of that, please. So yeah, interestingly, I had a look at the Gene Keys chapter, and there are 3 parts to each Gene Key. So there's the shadow, there's the gift, and then there's the siddhi, which is like the mastery aspect. So the shadow is expectation. So once you've transmuted that shadow through awareness and contemplation, it leads to detachment. And then once you've moved even further along into the mastery, it leads to celebration. So in this shadow, which leads to a kind of a repeating pattern of disappointment, if you transmute this and sit and contemplate the roots of this, you could find your way to celebration. Now, if you are of the frequency of celebration, then you just have to keep attracting more and more things to celebrate. So that sounds like a really good idea. So I had a good old sit and think about this. And yeah, there's so much going on. I don't even really know kind of where to begin. But if you look at the Gene Keys, it's kind of has a lots and lots of parallels to the I Ching system. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. But Gene Key 42, or if you look at I Ching number 42, it's all about increase in prosperity and progress. So, thinking about all of these words, increase and progress and celebration, and Douglas Adams' meaning of life, there's something in this. So let's have a look at kind of where all of this came from. So what I want you to do first is think about this energy of waiting that a lot of us are stuck in. So we're all waiting at the expectation station for our lives to improve. And we might be a bit stuck on how to do that. So this is kind of like, think about how this applies in your own life. It's the dream that the future holds greater promise than now. So it's like we're putting everything into the future. We're projecting into the future this happy wonderland experience that everything's going to be all right. So we're waiting for the thing, we're waiting for the day when everything works. So we'll have all the money we need, and then we'll find the love of our lives on a big white horse, and we'll have absolute freedom to do all the things that we never had a chance to do. But first, we have all this shit to sort out. So we've got all these things to clear up and all these messy bits going on in our life that we need to deal with before we can be truly happy. So we're kind of in this postpone. I just need to postpone. I'm just going to postpone again until we're really old, and then we basically arrive at death safely, having not taken any risks. So does this ring any bells? Like, are any of you stuck in this? Because, many of us know what's going on in the world, and we're all looking out at the world, and we're kind of like, when is this all going to be over so we can just get on with the golden age, Well, it's never too late. It's never too late. The first step to busting this is to see that you're in a pattern. So you have to be able to start to see through the futility of your personal expectations totally and with absolute honesty, which is quite hard. Because when you do that, you will let in a chink of light, and you will then allow divine will to become your will. So I've talked about this in a million different ways, and it's funny how my shows are all really about the same thing, but I just come at it from a different angle. So if you allow your will to be kind of put on the shelf, and then you have the realization that divine will is actually going to be a billion times more exciting and brilliant than what you had in mind for yourself. You realize that your expectations are coming entirely from your ego, so from your human. So our will is all scrambled up with projections and, mixed vibrations and unhealed stuff that we haven't got to yet, which can only lead to disappointment. So many of us, I mean, myself included, have been stuck in patterns of disappointment literally forever. And it gives us like a really, really jaded view of life. And life isn't actually like that. It's just that we have been stuck in that pattern and we don't know how to get out of it. So let's have a bit more of a think about this. So I think a key insight here is this is where the death thing comes in. So if you believe that when you die, that's it, it's game over. And basically, this kind of attachment to outcomes feels very, very intense if you feel like you've only got this life. You've only got this one life. You've only got this one life to do all things, Then if you think about that energy, you've got this very unforgiving energy towards yourself, kind of on steroids. So that there's self-criticism in there, and there's force, and then there's pressure. It cannot work. It just can't. Even if you feel like you're not self-criticizing, if you are kind of in any kind of force, it's inevitable that it can't go well because it just isn't the right energy. Because things can only really go well when we're floating downstream, which is the opposite of all of that kind of pressure and attachment. So once you spiritually get to the point of believing, okay, what if I'm an eternal spirit and this isn't the only life I'm going to have? Then on some level, you can let go of this kind of grasping and this kind of clinging on and this craving to needing to get everything right and to needing to get everything done. Once you let go of that, you can start to actually be in life in a completely different way. And on some level, the pattern of disappointment, disappointment, disappointment again, expectation, disappointment, that wears you down. And you do, you go through the despair and the negative emotion about that. And then you sort of pop out the other side and you have this more of a kind of fuck it kind of approach. And it does actually serve you to have hit rock bottom a few times and to then let go. So there's a lot in this about letting go. It's not what people necessarily want to hear, because we've all had a boatload of listening to, being told that we have to let go. Because it's not actually that easy to do. So we can either take the path of making every moment of our lives matter, making it a path of beauty and service, or we can just be very kind of self-centered, selfish, serving ourselves, basically setting ourselves up at every turn, which is going to lead to disappointment. So this does come from trying to get what you want. And it sounds insane, but we need to stop doing that. So the outcomes that we're craving for are not coming. And we have to see that letting go of that brings better than that. But that isn't, what our logical minds want to hear. And it doesn't really fit with all the programs that we've been given. So this is deprogramming on steroids. This is brilliant. And I love it when things don't make sense, but they do. Because as soon as you try this, it will work. So because these dreams that we have often come from our ego self, and we're so busy trying to push for these that we never actually get to experience them, we don't actually ever get to experience the something even better that the divine had in store for us instead. So the purpose of all of this disappointment, and then disappointment again, and control, and then disappointment and expectation, disappointment, I call it fuckery. Sorry about the language, but it is. It's been excruciating in my life, and I've had to experience that over and over again to see that it is actually something that I'm doing to myself, which is quite painful to realize. But my life's been misaligned in every single way. So, it's good that that's happened so that I can teach this. But the purpose of this excruciating pattern is to teach us to let go. And we've all been told to let go a million times, and it does piss people off a lot, because it's like, how? If we knew how to let go, we would have done it 20 years ago, But it's our expectations that we would benefit from letting go of, so that we can allow the divine to show us what we're really worth and what the plan B is, with sparkles and bells on. Because if we don't even have to really understand this pattern fully, as soon as we realize that there's something that we are doing that is causing the disappointment, so i.e. the expectation and the control, then just letting go and believing that there is a plan B that is going to be so much, like billions of times better than what we had planned anyway, that was never going to come to fruition because of all of our subconscious patterns. It just makes sense to do that. So we do think that we know better than God, and we don't. And we want to hold on, and we crave, and we control ourselves, we control other people. It doesn't work, and we've been doing it all our lives. So just have a little think about where this shadow comes from. So it comes from our parents' expectations of us when we were kids. So think about your child self. What did your parents expect of you? And what did that do to your child's self or your child's selves? Think of yourself at lots of different ages. What did they expect of you? And what aspects of yourself did you have to let go of in order to fulfill their expectations? So it's possible that in order to please them, to meet their expectations, you had to let go of freedom or magic or joy or creativity. You had to let go of aspects of yourself because they seemed to be the priority. And then what negative emotions did that cause for you? And what beliefs about yourself did that create? So it would be really valuable to sit with those questions in contemplation. I mean, the upshot of it is that, and it's really sad and tragic that because of all the patterns, the ancestral patterns that have been going on and on and on for eons, and all the dark energies and everything that we've been hijacked by, we basically handed ourselves over to our parents, trying to please them. We never actually succeeded to please them because they were seeking outside of themselves for us to fill in a black hole that they'd already got from not being able to please their parents. So we ended up not happy and they ended up not happy. So they were disappointed in us. We were disappointed in them. And then we abandoned ourselves. So this is why we're all walking around now in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, falling into one disappointment after another, because we haven't seen this energy. We haven't seen where this came from. So we had to abandon ourselves to survive when we were kids, because we're a relational species. We had to do that to stay safe because we relied on our parents to keep us alive. So our parents, they meant well and they loved us, but they caused us loads of trouble. And it is very tragic and very sad, but we need to see that it happened. So when they disapproved of us, we fell over ourselves to shut aspects of ourselves down and to be what they wanted. So to be what they expected. So we've got this pattern now of trying to meet expectations, the expectations of society, the expectations of family, kids, bosses, whoever. And it's not going to work. Because if we have this trauma, this original wound that we've not healed, we're just going to keep manifesting disappointment because that's what happened. So it's like we're on this perpetual hamster wheel trying to heal the original thing. So they were never actually pleased, even though we tried to meet their needs. And they were never going to be pleased because they were asking us to fill a black hole inside of them, which they could only fill from their own, going within journey. So whether your expectations are optimistic ones or pessimistic ones, this shadow narrows our field of vision and it closes us down and limits our potential. It limits the potential that exists in each present moment. So just zoom out and look at the loop of doom. Look at the loop of doom here. So our parents expected us to be certain ways to please them. And then that made us abandon our own needs and desires. So we felt empty inside and disappointed because we never got our needs or desires met. And then also our parents, were never satisfied with us because they were seeking outside of themselves for others to meet their needs, us, which was never going to work because they could only truly be happy if they went within to meet their needs and wants. So this is the reason why we can't seem to make it work. Um, so something that I found quite interesting was looking at this chapter of the Gene Keys. Something that they do that I find it really useful actually. Like every Gene Key shadow in the chapter, they share what happens to us if we repress the emotion of that, and then what happens to us if we do the opposite and kind of become the reactive version of that. So it really rang true for me, this. So the repressive nature of this shadow of expectation is grasping, and the reactive nature is flaky. So I'm just going to read that out because it really makes sense. So the grasping, so when expectation manifests through a repressive nature, it becomes an inability to let go and a continual grasping at life. These people simply do not want things to end and do anything to keep everything the way it is. This is a deeply rooted fear of change. Obviously, everything in life does come to an end in order that something new can be born. There are many ways in which people resist change through through trying to remain young, through not allowing our loved ones to go their own way, through clinging in some way to the past. However, this clinging actually makes these people gradually wither away. When we do not embrace change and allow things to die and decay naturally, we prevent life from renewing itself, thus sapping our own healthy energy and vigor. And the reactive nature of flaky expectation, the reactive nature finds itself unable to fully complete anything in life. This is another way in which expectation subtly undermines us. These people try to avoid disappointment by not really making any form of commitment in the first place. They move from one thing to another without allowing the natural life cycles to complete themselves. The dilemma is that they continually get stuck in the same old patterns. By breaking a cycle before it reaches a natural conclusion, they simply have to begin the same cycle again in a different form. No matter what they do to escape the negative patterns, they keep reappearing in their lives with different people, with different situations. This can be a disaster in relationships and in their finances. People who are flaky have a deep-seated inability to follow through with things. They are unconscious victims of their own expectations, regardless of whether they are pessimistic or optimistic. So yeah, so um, you might have expectations, that are positive. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to have more money. I'd like to reach this many people. I'd like to have this many followers on my Instagram, or, whatever it is. You might have positive expectations for yourself and your progress and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. You might have pessimistic expectations like, oh, nothing ever works for me. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to achieve what I want to achieve. Whatever it is, these same kind of energies apply to your expectation, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. If you haven't gone back to heal the wounds of this, you're going to keep getting that disappointment, and you're going to keep getting the same patterns over and over again with different people, different places, different circumstances. It's like the definition of insanity. And it really reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to get in my school reports, it used to say something like, Jennifer always gives up before she even tries. And that is this exact thing. It's that I could never please my parents. And then in abandoning myself entirely to try and please them, which never worked, I had abandoned myself. So I never got to attend to myself because I was too busy trying to please them. So everybody lost. It was a lose-lose. So because I was so disillusioned by the lose-lose pattern, and I was so kind of like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in even trying? Because nothing ever works. Like nothing ever goes my way. It's quite sad thinking about it. I used to get that quite often in my school report, and I used to think, why? Why am I like that? What? And at least I know now. And it still manifests in my life. I'm still working on this. It's really deep. It's a really deep wound, and it's really tricky. So rather than go on, all of us listening to this, like rather than go on for another 30 years, going round in circles, chasing our tail and trying, and then being disappointed again, why don't we just do a really, really good job of sitting with that wound and contemplating it from every which way, from, all directions? So I've got something here that I think might help. So if you would like to join me in some tapping, I think rather than sort of tap through all the different points, let's just tap on the center point, the central meridian point, which is just on your chest plate, where your heart chakra is, just in the center of your chest, and just tap really gently there to bring your cortisol down and to help you tune into your body, to help you ground, to help you listen to yourself, to help you join your right brain and your left brain together, to integrate your magic with your logic with your magic. And all sorts of things, amazing things happen when you tap. So this is brilliant. This is a brilliant experiment. So, and I know that we've all got this pattern, all of us. And especially if you're saying, no, I haven't, you have. Because if you're in denial, that's kind of a bit of a reflex, kind of, trying not to have it, trying not to have the thing. So I'm just going to read out some phrases that probably feel true in your body that are not nice things. They're not we're not doing the no, I've just dropped something. Did you hear that? Okay, a light just fell down off my desk and I'm just hang on. Okay, right, and we're back in the room. We just had a small avalanche, just knocked over a. I don't know why that fell. That was really strange. Okay, so let's tap on the center of your chest and just tune into your body, and then just have a deep breath. So what I want you to do is I'm going to say these things which are truths in our body, and they're temporary truths, and they're truths which are keeping us stuck related to all of this that I've been talking about today. So we're all being undermined by expectation, by clinging and grasping, and by not letting go, and by giving up before we've even tried, and things like that. Being kind of in freeze. So yeah, just tap, and then all you've got to do is repeat after me as you're saying it out loud. So if you don't want to say it out loud, depending on where you are, like if you're on the train or something, then just say it in your mind and notice what your body does. Because when I did this earlier today, it felt really strong. And how I knew that was because I started to feel sensation in my body. So the sensation I felt, some of it was in my heart, some of it was in my throat, like self-expression stuff. Some of it was in my head. So when you feel this kind of like, oh, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to admit this, oh, you're doing yourself so much good when you're tapping. So I'm excited for you to try this. So just repeat after me. I can't let go. I can't let things end. I want to keep everything the same. I want to keep everything just the way it is. I am really afraid of change. Nothing new can come. Something new can only come when something else dies. I don't want to let anything die. I cling to the past. I cling to others. I'm preventing life. I'm preventing my life. I'm preventing the life of others. I can't embrace change. I can't complete anything. I avoid disappointment by not committing in the first place. If I don't commit to anything, I avoid disappointment. If I don't commit to anything, I avoid feeling bad. But if I don't commit to anything, something bad has already happened. I'm giving up before I even try. Maybe I'm never going to get it right. So I might as well not bother. What's the point anyway? I can't follow through with my projects. I can't follow through with my relationships. I'm preventing my learning. And I'm getting stuck in the same old patterns. Whether my expectation is a good thing, whether my expectation is a bad thing, I'm becoming a victim of it. I couldn't meet my parents' expectations. They couldn't meet mine. None of us got what we wanted. Maybe I moved from one thing to another without allowing life to happen. What if I just let go? What if the divine has a better way? And all I have to do is stop clinging. I'm choosing to learn how to give permission. I don't have to get it right straight away. But I want to learn to complete things. I want to learn to stop giving up. And I'm choosing to learn getting it right. But maybe with a plan B. What if there's a plan B that's better than my plan A? What if I can learn to embrace change? What if it's never too late? What if good change has always been on its way to me? I just had to expect that instead. Change that I'm not controlling. Change that's coming just for me. It's not coming through anyone else. It's coming just for me. And maybe I can't let go. Maybe I can't let things end. Maybe I want to keep everything the same. Maybe I'm afraid of change. And that makes sense because I was taught to be like this. I was taught to cling. I was taught to prevent life. I was taught not to complete anything. I was taught to avoid disappointment by not committing in the first place. But disappointment's already happening. So I might as well try committing to myself, committing to floating downstream, committing to receiving plan B. And maybe I've never done that before. And maybe it's exciting. And maybe it's got bells on. Maybe it's something even better than I could possibly imagine. And it just makes sense that I'm like this. And I'm choosing to sit with these expectations. And I'm choosing to see that they might not be the right ones. And I'm choosing to see that there's a better way. And I'm choosing to see that I can't see it coming. And I'm choosing to receive that. And I'm learning to receive that. And I'm learning a different way. And all is not lost. All is well. And I'm choosing to feel the disappointments. So just have a deep breath. And I'd be really interested to hear how any of you got on with that, because often when I'm tapping on something, how I know that it's really working for me is that it feels bad. And that's not what a lot of people want to hear. So if you feel tension in your body when you're saying out loud things that are true in your body, so things that your body knows is true for you, that you'd rather not have. So you kind of got this cognitive dissonance going on, like, if you're saying something like, it feels like I'm not good enough, I don't feel good enough. If that feels intense in your body, it's because your body believes that's true, because somebody made you feel like that in your past. So you're holding on to that in your body. So if that feels bad when you're tapping, or if you get like a sensation or a negative emotion in your body as a result of that, stay with the sensation and then just keep saying that thing. And then the more you say that thing, and this isn't what people on the spiritual path want to hear often, because people think that if you say negative things out loud, that you're going to draw more of that negative emotion towards you. It's actually the opposite if you're caretaking your emotion. So you have to be in the negative frequency that's in your body to release that. If you're tapping, you have to feel that. Feeling is healing. You have to feel the thing to release the thing. It's like completing a circuit. It's because everything that happened to us when we were kids was kind of left undone. We could only process things and do half a job when we were kids, because we ended up suppressing stuff that was painful because we didn't know how to complete the circuit. We didn't know how to feel it all the way through. So when it feels intense in your body, so just then when we were saying things like, I can't let go, you know, I avoid disappointment by not committing in the first place. When we're tapping and we realize actually we do that, our body is feeling the discomfort of that, because back then when we were a kid, there's a child version of us going, what's the point? Whatever I do, nothing works. So why am I going to commit to this? Because nothing ever works out for me. It's a wound that needs tending to. So that's why it feels horrible when you're tapping. But it's feeling it that is going to heal it. If you stay with that negative sensation in the body and you keep following your intuition and speaking out loud the memory, or speaking out loud the realizations that you're having, it will gradually lighten. Sometimes you have to stay with it for quite a while. But what you're doing is finishing the job. You're finishing the job that you couldn't when you were processing when you were a kid. You might have been sitting in your childhood bedroom trying to figure out what you'd done wrong, trying to figure out what did I do wrong? What's this all about? Why is my mum angry with me? And you didn't know, and it was painful, and there was no explanation, and no one knew how to help you. So you suppressed the pain, you suppressed the difficulty, you suppressed the anger, the rage, whatever it was, you suppressed it. So when we're tapping and we're saying the negative stuff that we've realized about ourselves, it's not self-abuse. We're not going to bring in more of that with the law of attraction. We're actually allowing our bodies to repattern, because you're expressing a truth that was trapped in your body that isn't objective truth. None of it's true. None of it's true that you're not good enough. Like you always were. You've just got loads of stuff on top of you, which is not you. So that's what you're pulling the plug out of. You're releasing the negative emotions that are on you, that someone else put there, or that you put on yourself because of misunderstanding, etc. So when it feels bad when you're tapping, that's good. It's quite a hard thing to explain, to be honest. But yeah, I would recommend journal on disappointment, journal on these patterns of expectation and disappointment. Think about, your life. How do I experience disappointment? What do I do with that feeling? And how does it affect my behavior? Does it stop me from being creative? Does it stop me from, believing in myself? Does it stop me from achieving things? Does it stop me from being of service in ways that could benefit humanity? Does it stop me from enjoying life? Does it affect my quality of life? Does it affect my relationships? So I'd recommend sitting with all of that and tapping and speaking out loud the things that feel true for you, that are upsetting your life. And just allow all the mess to be there, all the negative emotion, all the sensations in your body, all the pains, all that stuff. Allow it to be there until it doesn't need to be anymore, because all of it is just a message, and it's a temporary message. So all you've got to do is receive and express that message, and then you will feel a lightening in your body, like a lightness as opposed to a heaviness that can appear in lots of different ways. Sometimes people see things like colors. Sometimes people feel energies moving up their spine, tingling. sometimes yawning shows you that you've hit the nail on the head and that you're starting to unwind and repattern your body. Um, there's no right way or wrong way to do tapping, but what it ultimately is a physical somatic way to contemplate. And if you tap at the same time as contemplation, you can move mountains. You really can. I would highly recommend it. Right, I think I've said most of what I wanted to say. So if you want to have a go at that, I would keep um, playing it, keep playing it over and over again. I think something that you can go to, which can offset the negative kind of dark form of expectation, that is basically your ego. It's just your ego trying to have it your way when actually there's a better way than your way. I would highly recommend wondering. So if you can think, okay, so if my expectations are just a bit pointless because it's not me doing it, and if I'm going to embody the universe, if I'm going to embody the divine, and the divine will is obviously going to be more fun, I might as well get on with wondering what that is. So this could be a positive form of expectation. When you're wondering, you're not actually forcing. Wondering is an open energy. So wondering isn't, if you're wondering how magnificent the plan B is from the universe, you're not actually pushing against it. You're opening a door to it. So I think do some journaling and tapping and go to town on the light version of expectation. So just say things out loud like, okay, so I wonder how the divine would do my life if I handed my life entirely over to it right now. I wonder what that would feel like. And I wonder what that would look like. And I wonder how I would know when it was happening. And I wonder what the positive emotions of that are. And then just let your mind wander. Because in with the gene keys, it suggests that once we let go of this dark expectation energy, it leads to detachment and celebration. So detachment sounds a bit cold, but it isn't actually that at all. It sounds kind of like unemotional and cold, but detachment. So if you've released attachment to all of the expectations that your ego had for you, which is quite hard, but if you did, you would actually feel more intensely. You would feel life more intensely because you'd let go of the constriction of the expectation that you had put on everything. So if you think about letting go of the constriction within all of your ego expectations, what you've got left is detachment. So detachment is really, it's not a cold thing at all. It's a bliss state. So as soon as you can nail that, you move into the mastery of celebration. Because if you let go of all attachments, there is nothing bad happening. You're not pushing against anything. You're not beating yourself up. You're not wishing you had more of something. You're not wishing you had less of something. You're just you're just vibing. You're just in bliss. You're celebrating life. You're in the present moment. You're not striving for something. You're not trying to get somewhere. You're just happy being where you are. Like think about the energy of when you're dancing. You're not lingering on the past. You're not thinking about the future. You're just enjoying the music and it's a good beat and you're enjoying moving your body and it's just presence. So if you can get yourself into presence and just enjoying the simple pleasures in life in a detached way, which is without any constriction. So think about that detachment in terms of this is the feeling that you get when you trust that there is something better coming, which can only come if you let your expectations die. It's not easy, but it's a journey and it's exciting and it's never too late. So good luck, everybody. So there's a couple of people here listening. So I'm going to stop talking now. If anybody would like to say anything, then feel free.
Once again, I know Kevin was trying to jump in a few minutes back, so if Kevin wants to unmute his mic, he can do. But thank you very much, Jenny. Much love.
Oh, you're welcome. Did you hear my light crash in the middle of that?
I was jumping, but
yeah. No, yeah, that was really interesting. It was like an avalanche because I've got like a light fell down and then it knocked over and then I just let it go. Yeah, but there it is on the floor.
I'm just waiting for a delivery to come. Very, very shortly.
Oh, lovely.
So, ready for the summer.
Yay.
Snacking away in a dark place.
Yeah.
And then put a few bottles in the fridge, and I've got some ice cold, ready made to go water for going on walks with Tobias.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
When he gets warmer, he struggles to breathe, so he gets a drink, he gets a bit of a soak on his head just to cool his head down a bit. I get a drink, we're all good.
Oh.
I don't have to laugh about it then. So yeah, I'm going to mute myself. If anybody that's listening wants to jump in and say a few words, I'm going to go and get my delivery because he's literally on his way around now. I can see him on the map.
Okay, Andy.
So I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Andy, Jackie, did you want to say something?
It's possible she might be driving, Kevin. Sometimes she's driving. I'm not sure if she can always hear. Yeah.
Okay, Jenny. Yeah, I had difficulty listening. It didn't really resonate with me, but I'm here to support you, and because I like you. But my journey is a little different. I appreciate sharing your childhood experiences, but my childhood was quite a bit different. Where I never lived my life, even to this moment, I've never lived my life to please my parents because they lied to me about things. So I lived my life from a child to please myself. And I got in trouble a lot because I didn't want to listen. I never did want to listen. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And living in that independent way, I didn't care about too much. If I didn't do well in school, who cares? I didn't like it. If I didn't do well here or there, like guitar, I wanted guitar lessons. And then I didn't like it because I wasn't good at it. So all the guys out playing hockey, road hockey, I wanted to go out there, but Mom wouldn't let me. So I broke the guitar. Mom, are you going to force me? Buy another one then. So I was a real rebel. And, I had my music, 45s. I would get a little allowance for doing some work I didn't want to do. That I would pay, around the house. But I would get paid and go to Sam the Record Man and get a 45 every week. And, I had a bunch of great ones by the Fifth Dimensions, Up and Away when it first came out, Shiloh by Neil Diamond, things like that that I can remember offhand, among others I could probably remember. But the thing is, even no fear of, even if my plans screwed up, they wouldn't support me going to university. Well, screw you, I'm going to Africa. I got a job and went over to Europe, and I thought, I'm not going to go to university. I can't afford it. I'm going to save enough money to go overseas and self-educate myself, which I did. Europe to Africa, and then back here, get my income tax back, go. Then I went right out west. I didn't want to be here anymore. Not around them at all. So, any one of them. parents that were not like me. They didn't like me either. So they fought against me all the time. So, but I guess it all happened for a reason, because it just gave me that joy of travel, joy of reading, joy of self-learning, but joy, 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 and not being defeated ever. I'm still learning. I just bought a trumpet. I don't have limitations on myself, Jenny. That's why I couldn't resonate with, because it seems like you're putting the limitations on yourself, focusing on disappointment. We have to release disappointment so we can go forth in joy every day. I can't say, oh, well, tap. No, we don't. Why do we? Well, for me, myself, I've done that inner healing. I've healed that inner child. I've forgiven myself and my parents and my previous generations. So I redeemed my past so I can live in the present moment, what you said. And Richard Rudd, his great ancestor, worked with John Dee. But that's how long he's been involved in metaphysics and so on, way back to John Dee's time. So this is, if we really take what Richard Rudd says to heart, we can do that in your healing. And I'm involved with Gene. I've listened to many hours of lecture with Richard Rudd and my friend Tam. What's her name again? Pam Edwards. I was just listening to her. But I'm learning astrology. I think that's what her name is. Pam Gregory or Pam Edwards. I was set up. But one of those Pams, she's from the UK. She's an astrology teacher, a mentor of mine, but very wise woman. But she's older like myself. But she's come to this area of awareness that there are no limitations to what we can do. Well, let's focus on joy, peace, harmony, and doing whatever we want to do. Like, that's what I do. I want to go across the states. I just go. I want to go anywhere. Just go. I don't say, oh, well, what if? Well, what if what? What if nothing? What if you just have to die? And no matter what I put myself a homeless line just to experience Savannah, Georgia. But I was taking a chance, but hey, here, I sat in the park with all these homeless just for the experience. I almost got in trouble, but I walked away. And because no fear, not people I were friendly with, they stood and I walked away. See you later. And had fun the rest of the day. So, I just wanted to give you that little analogy for quite a long diatribe, actually.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. You've just reminded me of that track up and away, the fifth dimension, is it? Yeah. I used to sing that to my little girl when she was little. I used to like have her on my legs and do up and away. Is it the fifth dimension that did that track? I have to find it, yeah. What was it? Yes, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to Google that now out of curiosity. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think we have to focus on negative emotion to heal it, Kevin. I think the joy, the focus on joy and everything has its place, and obviously we have to go in both directions. But if we're having patterns of disappointment in our life and it's a repeating pattern, the only way to resolve that repeating pattern is to focus on the repeating pattern, because the reason it keeps coming back is because we're not looking at it. Our body's going to keep giving us the thing. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. 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 No, that's fair enough. And there's lots of different ways, but I think that if we don't look in detail at the thing, then it kind of takes over and it just gets bigger. I mean, that's been my experience of it. So I've had to survive, I've had to focus on my repeating patterns and my negative emotion, because if I hadn't, I don't think I would still be here. So it saved my life doing it this way. But I know not everybody agrees, and there isn't, one way. Some people teach presence, some people teach action, and they're both quite, different energies. But it depends what frequency you're in. So, whichever solution that you go for that works is going to be dependent on sort of where you are to start with. But yeah, thanks, Kevin.
It comes from what it's all mental, like Ernie says, it's mental. So as a man or woman thinks they are, so I think it's all resolved from within. And those past things that weren't so pleasant, like we all have, but we resolve them, we transmute them, we balance them back into saying, oh yeah, I remember that, but who cares? Go right to the past. I learned my lesson, and let's get on with a new lesson. Don't focus on an old thing that's already resolved. It's already transmuted into balance, so I can live in peace. Hi.
Hi, is that you, Jackie?
It is.
Hello.
I was driving.
Yeah, I thought you would be. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in there and say, I feel like yourself, Jenny. I definitely would believe that you have to face your limiting beliefs, and your limiting beliefs do come from traumas. Doesn't matter how small they are. And I would definitely be in your school of thought, because with age, we can look back and go, okay, yeah, that's where I made a mistake and I could learn my lesson. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're dealing with your limiting beliefs, though. And in that respect, I am in 100% on your page, and less on Kevin's, because I really do think it's a journey. And if you don't face that, you won't expand. You won't become who you're supposed to be. And that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think the limiting belief thing, like I always, like when I do tapping sessions with people, they always go back to a decision point. So if you think about like a common one is I'm not good enough, there will be a time in your childhood experience where something happened or quite a few things happened. And then because of all of the stuff that happened, your child self would then say to yourself, okay, so because he said that to me or she treated me like that or whatever, then that must mean that I'm not good enough, or I'm ugly, or I'm this, or I'm not clever, or whatever the limiting belief is. It's a decision that we made. So if it was a decision that we made, we can undecide that, which is the beautiful thing about it. But yeah, feeling is healing. Like we have to, unfortunately, it's very difficult to convince people on the spiritual path to go there, because it conflicts with, what a lot of people think about the law of attraction. But it is very confusing as well, because everybody is all operating from different frequencies. So sometimes you can say something that is true for somebody in the fifth dimension, but then somebody in the third dimension, it isn't true, and then also you can turn that round, vice versa. So it's really hard to do this kind of teaching work, because you're trying to sort of help everybody wherever they are. And then there are certain times in your life where focusing positively is going to be better than focusing on the past. Do you know what I mean? But like generally with my own work and with clients, I get good results from completing the circuit. So from doing the process, that, you know, the full emotional journey with people that they couldn't complete when they were kids because they weren't facilitated to. But yeah, thanks Jackie for endorsing that as well. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong. There's just guidance, isn't there? And then we just have to muddle through and find our own way.
For a few minutes. And I've always had this thing where in a conversation I would always bring up the bad parts to everybody.
Oh God, yeah.
If you allow the good parts to run free, so the bad parts are just going to fester, and nothing's going to happen to them. Nothing's going to change. In fact, they're only going to grow and become even more bad or negative. And the way I've always looked at it is if you focus initially, you've got the stages you've got to go through, there are steps you've got to go through. If you focus your attention on your inner meditations or inner focus on the bad aspects of what you see and bring them up, the good parts of you will just quite merrily because they're the good parts. You don't need to focus on them. They're the ones that you don't need to worry about. In fact, bring up the bad aspects, negative aspects, focus on those so that you get an even playing field or as much of a balance as you can achieve. And then you've got a harmonious equilibrium then between the two, which then allows you to then focus on other aspects that you want to be more creative. You want to start you know, if you look at the secret and the law of attraction, then yeah, if you're trying to be attracting certain aspects into your life, but your inner you is in turmoil for whatever reason, then no matter how much you try and be on the outward part of you, the inner part of you is just going to dissolve it because it's not going to happen because you're trying to be positive on the outside, but on the inside you're full of anger, full of bitterness, full of rage, full of resentment, full of shame, whatever it is, whatever those negative things are, then they're just going to dissolve anything that you try and do physically to be attracting positiveness.
Yeah.
Well, that's just a quick, like two penneth worth type of thing.
Yeah.
we all have to resolve those old ways or things we are deceived or just deceived ourselves about. And once we resolve them, though, we can go forth in just love, peace, and harmony within. Yeah. Happiness. You did that, and you're always doing new things and trying to have fun and increasing your wisdom about your ham radio. I'm fun stuff too. That's just when Jenny was coming to the end of the show. And just it's spoken about happiness, being the best I can for myself, so that I'm happy and have fun, and for others, so that I can learn new lessons. So I can help others in their journey too. That's all.